The Last Voyage of the Demeter recently came out in theaters, and this movie is about a group of men who went on a ship to deliver cargo from Romania to London, but realized that one of the cargo has Dracula inside as he goes night by night terrorizing the crewsmen as they're trying to fight for their survival. This movie is based on the book by Brad Stoker of Dracula, where Dracula is in on the ship during the chapter of the book, and this is where the movie focuses on. But did the movie did a good job? Well, the answer is yes and no. To me, the movie was very average to mid, and there were some aspects of the movie that was very positive, but there were some that was somewhat negative. The best way to describe this film was that this film is a good dish that was missing some seasoning and it was cooked way too long. Now, there's going to be some spoilers in this review, so if you don't want to hear the spoilers, then this is your time. But we're going to start off with the positive, and that this movie has like a lot of actors who did a fantastic job on their roles, and there's like a couple of them. Like our main character, who plays by Corey Hawkins, who plays the character Clemens, who is this black doctor who found a job at Romania but was rejected because he was black. So now he has to go back to London to try to find work. So he goes onto the cruise ship. So that way, that's his one way exit to actually goes back to London. And he plays the significant role as being the doctor, trying to make sure that everyone is healthy and okay, but also too has to deal with the chaotic state of what's going on in the ship because Dracula is roaming around killing people, killing all the livestock and everything else, and try to figure out how Dracula moves and tries to defeat him. And throughout this whole movie, there's another character as well, which he plays as the captain, and his name is Liam Cunningham. And he did a fantastic job because he plays as a noble captain who's brave and take cares of the people and everything else. To the point where when Dracula actually kills his grandson, you can just see how his character just changed, the emotions, how much he is so in bet into revenge and how much that he wants to kill Dracula and the sadness of like his grandson actually died. And there's even one scene where the grandson like bursts into flames because now he's part of Dracula, he's transformed into a vampire. That this scene was just so much sad and touching because he is crying as he's just grabbing his burnt grandson because he's just like, oh, he's moving, and you can just see him how he just breaks down to sadness and madness because of this creature literally destroying his whole life. And this character or actor named David, I cannot pronounce his last name, but he did play in certain movies like The Boogeyman, Oppenheimer, and many more. And honestly, I do feel like he is cursed because every time when he plays in a movie, always something bad happens or something bad is going to happen to him. But he did a fantastic job as playing as a person who was in denial of everything towards like the last minute where he has to face against the monster. And throughout this whole movie, it's just Dracula going night by night, just killing everybody. Like he's just picking up one victim after one victim after one victim. And one of the best part about this movie is that the gores, there's a lot of kills and there's a lot of good gore, especially too when certain of the victims they transform into vampires and they burst into flames because they really did a really good job with that. Now, when it comes down to Dracula, I really did like the design of Dracula and how he was like this humanoid creature who looks very creepy, sinister, and it was really funny because every time when he grabbed his victims, he was actually smiling because he just knows that he's going to eat. So it was just very creepy. And this Dracula, he doesn't play any games at all. As soon as he goes out of like his coffin, this man goes straight to eating and tries to like get his victims. And it was really interesting that was the movements because when we first see Dracula, he's just roaming around in like the ship, and it kind of looks like certain moments he did look weak, but then as more as he feeds, the more stronger he gets, and throughout the whole film. So every time like it was just like night and then the next night and the next night, you can just see how Dracula is becoming stronger and stronger the more times that he feeds. And you can kind of see like his visions and kind of like his face structures are becoming much better. And so throughout this whole movie, Dracula, he's just looking around like everyone throughout the ship like he needs them, like he's hungry, and Dracula is not stopping until he gets everyone. And the interesting thing about Dracula's design is that it's practical and it's CGI and it really looks good. And the best part about it is that Dracula's in the ship, so of course the crewsmen, they have to go ahead and deal with the whole elements of them being at sea, dealing with them being at night, and especially too when it's storming and raining. Like that's just a whole new element, and this is just a very unique style. Now, when it comes down to the negative that the movie is way too long, I do feel like the movie should have been an hour and 30 minutes because of certain materials they does drag long, and it just doesn't build any interest because the characters, they're very one dimensional. Even though everyone did a good job, the script is not that great, and that's just what happens because you can just tell that the characters are trying to do their best to try to make it be good or interesting, but it's just that the script, it just makes these characters very one dimensional, and the only aspect that's just very interesting is when Dracula shows up to try to go ahead and save everyone, to try to make the whole movie or the scene be very interesting and have the sauce, the riz, just anything that makes it very interesting. Because throughout this whole movie, this is a good concept, but it's just that sometimes it just has like a lot of boring and one-dimensional characters that just brings it down a notch. Another thing about this movie is that the movie's logic is just 100% ridiculous because there are certain things that these characters could have avoided. Because at one aspect of this movie is that Dracula was delivered into cargo. So if the people who delivered Dracula into the ship, if they were already done with Dracula and they hated the fact that he was kind of like terrorizing their city, then why couldn't they just open up the coffin, dump out all the dirt, and have Dracula's body be revealed to the sunlight? On top of that, the crewsmen, they could have did that as well when one of their crewsmen transformed into the actual vampire, and they could have just found the actual coffin to do that. And especially too, if the lady that was part of the cargo, she could have just said something to them to help them actually defeat Dracula, but no, she just kept her mouth shut and everything else. So the dialogue in this movie wasn't that very much good to me because I really do feel like when they were actually talking, there are certain aspects where I just kind of like dial back, and they do this natural formula that this is a creature, and so that the creature comes night by night, killing everyone, and the crew is trying to figure out the mystery and what's going on. So it does follow that formula, and I really do feel like they didn't really do a good job with it, especially too with the dialogue. But this movie, it could have been avoided with the logic as well, because there was just certain aspects that they could have defeated Dracula way sooner, especially to like how like Dracula, like the towns that Dracula is actually tormenting, they could have just literally lift the coffin, take out the dirt, and just have Dracula's body like burn. Especially too when one of the crewsmen, they figure out that he was a actual vampire, they could have just find Dracula if the lady could freaking talk to them and tell them about Dracula right then and there. But no, she just kept quiet and didn't say anything and just kept crying until it was already too late. So there was just a lot of like logic stuff that could have just been like avoided. And I just really do feel like if they had more time just reviewing the script with the better dialogue, better character development, and also to better like scenes, especially to when Dracula, when he goes on ahead and kill people, it feels like a rinse and repeat because he kept doing the rinse and repeat. And I understand like this is Dracula, so what else, how he's going to like kill people and stuff. But it could have been more exciting because the only aspect that was just very exciting is when they transform into the vampires and we just see them burn. That was the most coolest part. But other than that, the movie also kind of like spoils the ending in the beginning of the movie. Yes. So, like, because the whole aspect of it is that towards the end, they try to sink the ship so that way Dracula will be like, in the bottom of the ocean. But that didn't happen because we see in the beginning that they actually landed in London. So the whole thing is that Dracula kills everybody because like literally no one wasn't safe. That little grandson, he got killed, the dog, everybody, besides one person, which is our main character who plays as Corey Hawkins as Clemens. He survived. And so when he survived, he reached to London and he's dedicating his whole life to try to stop and destroy Dracula. And Dracula, he's in the city disguising himself as a human. And he goes on ahead and trying to hunt down Clemens as Clemens trying to hunt him down. So there's this whole cat and mouse thing. So they're trying to build like this whole sequel universe thing for Dracula. And honestly, how the box office is looking, that this movie is not going to make his money, which does really sucks. But this movie, I really do want to see the sequel because I really do want to see how they're going to end this story, but we don't know for sure yet. But honestly, if I have to be 100% with you, would I recommend to you guys to watch this movie? Yeah, kind of. I mean, I really, as much as like I do want to see the sequel and see how the story ends, I would just honestly will have to tell you guys that this movie is best to see it in like just a streaming platform. Like this movie is just a streaming platform movie. And honestly, like if I had to give this grade, I would have to give it a C plus. It did a really nice job trying to grab your interest, and especially too like how you saw the trailer, it just makes you want to watch this movie. And I really did want to watch this movie, but I really did find this movie to be a little bit disappointing. And if I have to give this a scaling from 1 to 10, I will have to give it at least a 7, a solid 7. Like I said, I really did enjoy the film, but I just really feels like this movie just lacked the pizzazz that just makes it be, very entertaining and enjoyable. But let me know down in the comment section if you guys did watch this movie. Did you guys like it? Did you guys dislike it? Your thoughts, process, anything. If I said the name wrong or all this other stuff, just let me know down in the comment section. But if you guys do like the video, please give it a like, subscribe, and remember, always be decent. It's the Monotone Man, and hope you guys have a wonderful day and be safe out here. Peace.